guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make your very own cactus and succulent DIY pin cushion. It's very simple to make with very few tools, so if you're a beginner sewer, this is great. You don't even need a sewing machine for it. I got this idea and design from another YouTuber. I'll put her video up in the cards if you want to check out hers, but I did a little tweaks of my own. So if you're excited for this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another DIY video. Let's get started. Okay, so for this project you're going to need different color pieces of felt. I have pink and yellow for our flower and then two different color greens for our succulent cactus. You'll need polyfill stuffing, a marker to draw your template with, some embroidery floss or thread to sew closed, your clay pot. So I have some stones, they're technically called river stones, to fill my pot with and weigh it down, scissors, and a hot glue gun. So we're going to start out by drawing out our cactus. I have this air and water soluble ink pen. It's also called a disappearing ink pen that we're going to use. You can get this at any kind of fabric store or craft store in the sewing section. You're going to take your terracotta pot or your clay pot and just kind of use it as a template to see how big you want your cactus leaves to be. So we're going to kind of start off here. You're going to want to do 3 of each green, or 3 of the regular green and your contrast fabric. So we're just going to kind of start off here. And remember, you can always add fabric. You cannot take, you can never add fabric, but you can take away. So it's always better to go bigger at first. You can kind of see there I have like a little half circle that's got to go into the pot. You do want to leave a little bit of fabric to go into the pot because we are going to glue it in the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and cut that out, check it for size, and we're going to have 3 of these. So you can see kind of when we stick it down into the pot, it is going to be glued and pushed down a little bit, and this is going to get a little bit smaller when you sew it, but it'll sit right about that size. You're going to repeat all 3 of these on your contrasting light green back here. Okay, we have all 3 pieces of fabric of our dark green and our light green. You're gonna kind of stack them on top of each other with your contrast fabric, and you're gonna do a blanket stitch all the way around each one of these pieces. I'm gonna be using my embroidery thread. It's kind of hard, there it is. It's actually a little bit of a darker green just because I actually did want it to be seen, and I have my thread doubled. If you do not want to use thread because you think it's too thin, you can also use your embroidery floss. There we go. It's darker and it will be easier to see. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and sew this guy closed. We'll start a little bit a ways away from the edge and start our blanket stitch. I have my thread in a double knot at the end so it won't come through. So to do your blanket stitch, you're going to go through your fabric and pull your needle back through the little loop you just made. So there's my loop. I'm going to go ahead and go through without stabbing yourself in the finger like I just did. And go ahead and pull through. It'll leave a little loop on the edge of your fabric, kind of like that. It's definitely more pronounced with the embroidery floss or a thicker thread, but I wanted mine to be subtle. So we're going to keep going with our blanket stitch. Okay, we've got all 3 pieces sewn together with the blanket stitch around the edge. Now you're going to stack them on top of each other and just sew straight down the middle. I did do 1 blanket stitch on the top just to connect the 3 pieces, but the rest of it is just going to be a plain old straight stitch down the center. There we go. Now we are ready. We have 3 pieces all the way around. It looks like one of my blanket stitches came out, so I'm going to go back and fix that. But we are now ready to stuff. And I just used kind of, you can use a pen or a pencil. I just used actually a tip of a paintbrush to kind of help get that stuffing way up in there through those tiny seams. You can also stuff with rice if that's more your forte. I decided to just use stuffing because that's what I had on hand. I had some extra from a leftover project, but if you want it to be more of kind of like a Beanie Baby, you can always for sure use rice. And I just kind of massage that stuffing just to kind of help it through these small channels here, and you can make it as firm or as plushy as you want. I usually like mine to be a little bit firm. You can kind of tell by my old pincushion, there's really not a whole lot of give. Also use that pen, pencil, or paintbrush, whichever you're using, just to kind of be careful that you don't do this like I just did with your blanket stitches. Be careful that you don't poke all the way through, but you do want to make sure that your corners are well defined. Okay, so I have one side completely stuffed. I'm going to repeat on the other two sides and move on. There it is after it's all stuffed. I did end up going back and re-sewing some of my blanket stitches from when I had poked through by accident. So if anything happens like that to you, just go back and kind of like right here where my stuffing's poking out, you can easily go back in and just do another little stitch right there to close it up. But that's completely optional. If you want a more rugged look, that is completely fine. So now we're going to move on to our flower. So for the flower, I ended up drawing just kind of 2 ovals to make the petals, and then I just kind of use those as a guide since I can't draw circles very well or ovals very well apparently. So I just kind of use those as a guide for my petals and just cut out a little flower shape. And this flower is completely optional. If you do not want to put a cactus on your flower, you can skip these next few steps. Okay, so I have my little, it's a little odd shaped, but so there is the base for the flower, and I'm kind of going to do a very similar shape out of the yellow fabric. Okay, so I have my 2 little pieces for my flower. I'm going to put those on top, just kind of how I like it. And using my same green thread, I am just going to tack those together. Okay, so I'm going to come up through the middle of these flowers and just kind of do a few stitches in the middle there, just so they are attached together. Kind of like very similar to sewing a button. I'm just going to do just back and forth in one direction and then the other. Okay, I have those 2 tacked together. Now I'm going to kind of pinch it at the side and do a little bit of a few more stitches, just kind of like that, so it's easier to attach to my cactus. It's also going to give the flower a little bit more dimension when it stands. Just kind of like that. And we're going to take our cactus and attach. I'm going to go through the top of my cactus. I'm going to go all the way through all 3 layers and pull it through. So now my flower is on top. I'm going to help it center and just kind of do some more stitches through and make sure we are secured. Once you know you've got it how you like it, it's centered, you're confident it's secure, I'm tugging on it pretty good and it's not moving anywhere. So you can go ahead and cut and tie off your strings. I'm tying my strings underneath that flower to help hide it. Okay, and then just cut away your excess. And there you go, you've got your little flower on top of your cactus. Okay, now we're ready to put your cactus inside your pot, or your plant. We're going to take our hot glue gun. If you have a hole in the bottom of your pot, be sure it's covered so your glue doesn't come out the bottom. I just left the price tag on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a good amount of glue inside the pot all around so that has a good base to start to stick. I'm also going to put a little bit of glue on the leaves here. Stick them together. And then we're going to get a good amount of glue to stick in the pot. Okay. My cactus was actually stuffed a good amount, so I am going to have to hold it while the glue dries. But that is more or less what you're going to look like, and then we can add our river pebbles or sand or whatever you want to use to help weigh down your little pot. You could just leave it here if you like, but that's completely up to you. So we'll be back in a moment when the glue dries. Okay, and I'm going to add my little river rocks. I am going to do a few just little daubs of glue inside the pot to help hold some of these rocks in place so that in case I do knock this over, all the rocks don't come out. But we're going to just go ahead and just kind of fill it with rocks to kind of help weigh it down. Okay, and then we're just going to clean up those glue strings a little bit. Fun fact, hot glue gun is really good for making homemade spider webs. But there we go, we have our rocks. That one was not glued down, but that is why we added the hot glue. So we're gonna go ahead and do another little dot right here and put that guy back in place. But there we go, we have our little rocks inside our cactus. And the only thing left to do is add our pins. And there you go, your finished cactus pin cushion. This actually held way more pins than I was anticipating, but that's perfect for everything that I make. I make some large blankets and things like that that usually require a lot of pins. But there you go, your very own cute little succulent cactus pin cushion. Well guys, I hope you really liked this video. Make sure that you have liked and subscribed to the channel. It really helps support, and I hope you enjoy your new little succulent friend. Thanks guys, bye!